What happens when you're a serial tech entrepreneur trying to design a custom ring for yourself and find the experience to be outdated and daunting? You solve that problem by disrupting the jewelry industry with a new business, the first mobile app that allows users to design rings and try them on before they buy. Ah, how wonderful is that? Hey, it's Fab Female Founder Friday on the Start of Life Live show. Let's glow. Woohoo! As soon as I find my dance music, and here it is. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Start of Life Live show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now share founder startup stories to help newly minted business owners find the solutions they need and the inspiration they need to succeed. So I am so grateful that you carved out time to tune in and up your founder game while cheering on another founder, because you never know what tool, insight, aha moment that you might have from hearing another founder share their stories. Then you can run back to your business and implement it. It's so much fun. And if you're joining us live today, thank you for tuning in. Please say hello in the comment section. And if you're tuning in via replay, be sure to do a hashtag replay and I'll swing by and blow you a mwah virtually. And by the way, if you would like to get alerts whenever I post a new show, please join the Startup Life Live meetup group right there, bit.ly/Startup Life Live. Live is in all caps, or scan the QR code. That way you'll get an alert whenever I post a new show. How wonderful is that? And if you like the founder stories and gems you're hearing today and you resonate with the show's mission of amplifying diverse founder voices while serving first-time founders around the world, please consider supporting the Startup Life Live show with either a personal donation, or if you'd like to sponsor the show, hop onto my website to learn more, andelyons.com. And thank you for sharing your love on this video, because when you like this video, it goes out into your community. You never know who might tune in and be impacted positively by watching the show. So I really, really appreciate that. And if you're on YouTube watching and you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you'll be alerted whenever I have a new show. Now, I launched this show in April of 2020, pandemic, thank you. And guess what? We are about to celebrate the 100th episode coming up on Friday, the 20th. That's just a week away. Jenny Lovecourt is coming on to help me celebrate the 100th show of the Startup Life Live show. I'm so excited to introduce you to Jenny. I mean, she is a female founder that's knocked it out of the park. She founded Wedding Channel, which she sold to The Knot, and now she's an operator, angel investor, and VC investor. So we're going to learn a lot from her. But let me bring it back to our special guest today, because you are going to love this female founder. Her name is Madeline Fraser, and she's a serial entrepreneur and big thinker who loves creating. Now, let me just bring up that. See what I'm saying? She's phenomenal. And she loves creating consumer-facing technology that solves a big problem. And over the past 5 years, this fab female founder has created and grown multiple startups, raising millions in funding for ideas she believes will make our world so much easier. We love hearing stories about female founders raising money. And today, she is the founder and CEO of Gemist, a custom jewelry brand that gives you the power to design your own jewelry, offering a 100% customizable experience with options for the cut, setting, metal, stone, color, style, band, and size. How much fun is that, right? I'm going to just pull up this other screen right here for you. And through its unique try-on feature, the brand will send Gemist rings straight to your home at no cost, so you can be sure the fit, look, feel, and experience is exactly what you want before buying. And all stones and jewelry are ethically sourced and handcrafted locally in downtown LA. Let me bring this phenomenal fab female founder into the screen here. Welcome to the show, Madeline Fraser.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. That was such a beautiful intro. I'm flattered.
Oh my gosh. Well, I just, when I learned about you, I said, oh my gosh, I know the community is going to love meeting this woman who has, now you're on your third business. You've created so much value, but also through your lived experience, right? You have the stories that we need to hear and want to hear from the start of life. So I'm so grateful that you tuned in. And where are you hailing from?
I'm in LA. Our offices are in downtown.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So, this whole transition from being, just a person in the world, in your case, you were very busy earning your fine arts degree, right? When something happened, I don't know, did an idea popped into your head, a problem that you saw needed solving? What, compelled you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I never set out thinking, oh, I'm going to go create and grow startups, because I constantly am saying this is a crazy job that I've created for myself.
Well, and
But how
also
much do I
fine
love
arts, right? Fine
it?
arts, you're busy creating. That degree is, really deep, right?
Yeah. I'm an artist at heart. I'm a very creative person. And I went to George Washington University in DC, and I got a scholarship for fine art to go there. And while I was there, I actually also discovered the architecture and interior design department. And that was actually the source of how I met my first two co-founders for my first company, which was called Zoom Interiors. And that was the very first online interior design platform ever. This was in like 2012, 2013, when people were telling me, oh, no one's ever going to buy a sofa online. You're crazy, And we were like, I think we're right.
Yeah, because when did Wayfair launch?
Yeah, it was around that time. It was all sort of starting to happen. And, we saw a niche for college students. That's really why I think the company was so successful, is because we were very clear, very focused on our mission. And we saw a lot of kids who wanted to move out of their dorm rooms into their first apartments, and they didn't want to go to IKEA.
Right. Or Target.
Right. Exactly. They wanted something unique to them, which is, definitely a through line in a lot of my businesses. And it's something that, we just kind of dove in head first, never went to business school, never really knew exactly what we were doing. But I think that's the beauty of being 22 and starting something from scratch, right?
Right. You're not filled with constraints from what you've seen or what you've witnessed. Oh, I love that. Something fierce. And so who in your group had any tech background?
None of us did, actually. Yeah, the three of us were all very creative types, right? We met in our very first architectural drafting class. So we were all interior design architecture students. And it was interesting because growing that company with three people who are very creative was fascinating. And at the time, I didn't even know you could raise funding. I didn't know what a venture capitalist was. I just thought everyone bootstrapped everything from the ground up. I think that's what we all thought. And so we were very scrappy, and we divided and conquered. There were no titles or really roles. We just all did it together as a trio. And that was a really beautiful time. I think for all of us, we learned a hell of a lot. It was definitely trying, but very interesting, because we ended up getting that company on Shark Tank.
What?
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. That's a lot of fun to hear, because, many founders tuning in have applied, right? They waited in line, scrolled around several buildings, down a few blocks to audition for a Shark Tank, but to get on, share that story with us.
Yeah, I think that is a testament to me a little bit. I'm a very persistent human being. I'm very curious, and I definitely dive in 100%. And I was actually in our school cafeteria and Shark Tank came on like one of those little TVs they had up there, and there were these three college boys sitting in a row, pitching some moving company for college students. And it was us three girls. And I'm thinking, what the heck? I'm going to get on Shark Tank. If those guys got on Shark Tank, I sure as hell can get on Shark Tank. And so I go and I tell my two co-founders, and they were like, yeah, like you're ever going to get on Shark Tank. That's impossible. And I said, watch me. And the rest is history.
That is great. And that's the attitude to have, everybody. Why not me? Instead of why me?
Totally.
And they were representing someone in the college industry moving. So it was in your category. And of course you went, My gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so then you applied, and what happened? I just love to know this detail because,
Yeah.
Madeline, so hard to actually get picked up by the show.
So we got really lucky. We connected with the right people,
Mhm.
but again, it was really persistence, right? I always tell a lot of founders, I'm like, you have to sometimes ask 5 to 10 times to really get an answer. And if I hadn't been persistent, I'm not sure this would have really happened. And so finally they call me back, and one of the producers is like, we love what you're doing. This is fantastic. If you can get us a pitch tape in the next 24 hours, we will put you in front of the producers with 100 companies, not the right before the 500,000 applications come in. And
Wow.
so we were like, okay. So we made this like terrible pitch tape. We stayed up all night and filmed it ourselves and figured out how to edit it and stuff, and it was just this hilarious thing, but we did it and they loved it, and they accepted us.
Okay, everybody. The answer is always no unless you try and
Mhm.
unless you ask. So I
100%.
love that. And how was it going? Who was the group of sharks that you presented to?
It was like the original. It
Yeah.
was season 5, so it was
Okay.
the
Yeah.
OG ones. Barbara Corcoran was the woman who
Yeah.
ended up investing, or saying yes on the show. The investment did not go through in real life, which is actually incredibly common. About
Very common, everyone.
only 1 in 9 deals actually go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And yeah, but we love Barbara. She's
Yeah. Oh,
terrific. But
what a lovely woman. I
right.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah. What happens often, folks, is that sometimes you're sitting down with the attorneys and it doesn't work out then. They change their mind. So while it's great content for those of us watching, the happy ending isn't always there, but it's still that learning experience. And Maria Luna, if you're watching, too. I saw a woman pitch on Shark Tank and reached out on Twitter because I thought she was so phenomenal. And we've been friends ever since. And it's been fun watching her business soar over the years. So I have a deep appreciation. I've heard other stories too. And it's a remarkable journey. So how did this business, Zoom Interiors, come to its fruition? Did you sell? Did you say, okay, we're complete? What happened?
Yeah. So essentially what happened was we ended up getting from the, I guess, publicity of Shark Tank, we ended up connecting with other venture capital investors and startup founders, one of whom was Sean Rod, the founder of Tinder, who actually reached out to me on Facebook Messenger or whatever, saying, hey, saw you on Shark Tank. We love what you guys were doing. Do you need help? Which was really interesting. And of course, that was exactly what we needed. We were super
Yes.
young and really didn't not know what we were doing at all. And so it was important to have a mentor at that time.
Absolutely. Had you worked anywhere, like in a company before?
Nope. I've
Yeah.
only ever created and grown my own businesses and paid myself from it. I mean, I've had internships and I've bartended and
Sure.
hosted. That's how you get through. That's how we got through the
But
first company, at least.
right. Yeah. I bring that up, Madeline, because when I was listening to Guy Raz interview Squarespace, right, the
Mhm.
founder, same thing. He founded it in college and he was readily admitted he had no idea even how to hire somebody because he'd never been hired.
Yeah. You learn so much while you're in it, and it's
Right.
kind of like your crash course in business school. It felt like that,
Right.
growing Zoom and then growing Hutch, which was our second company, which essentially evolved from Zoom Interiors, and that was the business that we ended up raising venture capital funding for with the help of Sean and a ton of other amazing people.
Yeah. So how long? So Zoom, how did that evolve? Let's wrap that up and move into Hutch because I'm fascinated about Hutch and I love how you're bringing your incredible sense of design to the world, solving problems, but also, that ability to see what needs to be beautified.
Yeah. We were thinking a lot about technology and innovation there, and we had a lot of consumers that wanted a mobile app. They wanted really to be able to design on their own without actually talking to a designer.
Right.
And so that was sort of the next phase in our heads of the business anyway. And when all of these opportunities and doors started opening, we decided to essentially take all of the consumers and learnings and data
Mhm.
that we had collected over the few years we'd been running Zoom Interiors and funnel all of that into what we called Hutch. And so that was kind of the birth of that. And we started raising funding. And it was really interesting because then all of a sudden it was like, okay, what are your roles? No one had ever asked us that before.
So what did you
right?
do? Like,
Well,
oh my gosh.
yeah, it's interesting. It's like, oh my God, we have an actual business now. What's going on, right?
Well, and the attorneys want to make sure you have the right operating agreement, right? Everybody, you hear me
Yeah,
go on
it
about
all
this.
became very official, right?
Yeah.
Like pretty quickly. And I'll never forget this. We had like this little meeting with the three of us and Sean at like a coffee bean near his office. And he was like, so who's CEO? And we all looked at each other like, we don't know, like what, and it was funny because we all had like slightly different strengths, but we're very similar people at the same time. And so
Yeah.
because I was really outgoing and I had got us on Shark Tank and I was getting us a ton of press and all these things, I very sort of easily slipped into the CMO role. And so
Okay.
that ended up becoming my role at the business, which was really interesting. And so,
Wow.
I say like Gemist is also really the first time that A, I founded a business on my own, and B, I've actually been able to run it and really call the shots and be CEO, which is
Yeah. And see,
really
I would have said you were a CEO, and here's why. The CEO is the one who shares the vision, who keeps everybody inspired, right?
right.
I mean, marketing at the end of the game is a mathematician game. It's a real numbers game. It's
Yep.
stats. It's
Very
all
true.
of that. And I get that you've got a head for numbers for sure. But I also, anybody can get the folks on Shark Tank. That's vision. And that's real leadership skills. So
Thank you. That's very sweet. So yeah, it's definitely been a fantastic and beautiful journey that sort of unfolded over the last few years to teach me what it means to really grow
right.
an idea into something beautiful. And I am so grateful I've had that opportunity.
One thing I want to find out too, because here we've got three creatives, right? Smarty
Mhm.
pants gals, clearly knowing what they're doing, but you still had to outsource your tech. Did you bring someone in as a CTO? Did you
We did.
offshore it? How did you figure that out, both for Zoom and then when you moved the assets into Hutch?
So with Hutch, we brought in two more co-founders. So we had five.
Great.
So we had a CTO and a head of product, so
Yep.
UX UI mainly, and they were two men, dear friends of ours still. So we had two guys, three gals, and
Okay.
we started building this thing. I mean, it was a wild roller coaster of a ride that taught us, I think, so much because we were all very young at the time in our
Right.
20s.
Right.
And just learning how to go. And one of our mantras that we came up with together, which I still utilize all the time today with the team at Gemist, is fail fast, fix fast, learn fast, because that's actually what you're doing all the time. I mean, you're creating a company from scratch, you're innovating something, right? So no one's ever necessarily done what you're doing before. So there's no rule book. There's not really anyone to say, hey, will this work or will it not work? You're kind of just flying in there and trying things. And so
Excellent.
you do have to fail, but you got to do it quickly. Try not to fail the same way twice. And that essentially equals success.
Would you say that mantra one more time? I want to get that down.
Yeah, fail fast, fix fast, learn fast.
Okay, well, you guys, you know what we're going to do with that? I can see that on the pillow.
We gotta do it. Let's do it.
That is ideal. That's a wonderful mantra to have, because where you can get stuck, founders, is in looking for perfection in the problem. And the advice and the mantra that Madeline and clearly her team stuck to will keep you moving forward, because you don't want to be stuck. You want to be pivoting. You want to be agile. You want to be able to listen and move. And that's just tremendous, tremendous advice, Madeline. Let's talk about the fundraising process, because you were young. So you didn't know yet about this bias out there, the fact that there's this matching principle that's sort of unconscious.
Yeah.
And, when women go to get money, a lot of barriers to entry happen.
Yeah.
And I have, a dear friend who's, with a safety jewelry company. Her co-founder is a male. And again, she gets asked completely different questions than he does.
Wow.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the fundraising process for Hutch.
It was interesting. Again, I was not CEO. So right. I didn't know that the CEO was the one who raised funding. Again, you have to think, we didn't know anything. We're just like learning a day by day. Like I'd go home and be like, whoa, my mind is blown about whatever happened that day.
For parents out there, we need what to expect when you're raising a startup, right?
Totally. It's like we were just learning. And so, I was pretty shocked that I wasn't going to be able to. I was like, wait, I don't get to pitch the investors. Like, Beatrice was our CEO. I was like, so she gets to do that. And I was super bummed. I was like, damn, I want to do that. Like that is like totally my jam.
It's so you. It's so you.
And so anyway, we did it a little bit, we all helped, grow the business and create the vision and everything. But really, she was the one that was actually in the room with the investors and with Sean specifically. Okay. So he really took her under his wing and mentored her incredibly. Obviously, I got kind of like some mentorship off of that, the ricochet of it off of that. But I wasn't as involved as I'd liked. I mean, I learned a lot, but I can't tell you how much I've learned with Gemist. I mean, it's like a whole new world, and it's been so fantastic.
Absolutely. And folks, I have a great document. Just email me, Ande@andelyons.com, called Investor Questions. These are all a list of questions that investors will be asking you to help you prepare. But better yet, I've got a list of questions for you to ask investors. So, that's just as important. And there you were raising funding. And of course, you were in another room going, oh my God, how's it going? But also trying to, when you really need the money for your business to give it the oxygen it needs, sometimes you forget to think that you really are in the driver's seat. You are the vehicle that's going to help them meet their needs with their portfolio, and that you need to ask these tough questions. How did you find aligned investors? Did you have some bumps along the way with raising money for Hutch?
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is, because we had the influence of someone as incredible and
Mr. Tinder
as Sean Rad, I will say that was unbelievably helpful. I do not know if we would have been able to do it without him, especially being first-time female founders.
Yeah.
Which sucks. That's a horrible thing to say, but it is unfortunately kind of true. And so that opened an incredible amount of doors for us. It allowed us and it taught us, right? What do you actually have to do? What is a pitch deck? How do you create a pitch? What do you have to be thinking about? How do you scale? How do you hire? I mean, all of the things that we didn't really know exactly what to do. We were learning every single day. And that was what was so incredible about the experience overall. And so, we had moments where we'd be like, okay, we're like going to be out of cash in a month.
Yeah. And everybody virtually raise your hand.
Funny. Yeah. And hey, I've been in the same place with Gemist before, where you feel there are so many moments in the life of a startup where you're either incredibly excited or you're at the bottom of the barrel. You're just you have dug yourself a hole and you literally think that will never see the light again. And so it's funny because doing that for the first time, it's very emotional, and I talk about being vulnerable and being emotional. I'm a woman, right? And that's never going to change, right? So I always have allowed myself to feel those emotions, to cry, to laugh, to experience that. But doing it for the first time, I started noticing, I'd be driving home like on cloud nine, like, oh my God, we're totally gonna, this is gonna be the best thing in the whole entire world. Or I'd be driving home crying.
Right.
Like, it's over. Everything's gonna be over, and then the next day you realize that, guess what? It's never as good or as bad as you think it's gonna be anyway.
Right. And so tomorrow's a new day.
Exactly. That kept happening. I'd be like, so I shouldn't have been so like freaked out about that, or so excited about that, or whatever, right?
But Madeline, it doesn't matter. I'm always telling folks, 1 minute you're pouring the champagne, the next minute you're crying into it. And that can be in a 60-minute period.
I know. It's a crazy thing. And so, one thing I did, and I still try my best to do, is tell myself to stay in the middle. Stay in the middle. It's, don't try not to kind of go really high or really low. Try to stay calm, stay level headed, stay focused, and it will work out. That's my mantra right now.
That is great. And I'm having one of my favorite moments right here when I hear that, because it's so important to remember that, this too shall pass. So I'm just going to take a moment here. It's Andelicious because so often we just don't hear these real stories, folks. The emotions that come, and look, I know plenty of guys who are out there crying too in their own way.
Yes, totally. They just don't talk about it. I think they
Right.
cry all the time.
Exactly, and the nail biting moments, and I think you and your founders, the Hutch experience, you three gals could easily put an MBA after your name at this point, right? I mean, what
Yes,
you had
that's
to
what we
learn on
always
the
said.
fly.
Yep, we said this is business school, man.
Yeah.
We are learning a lot, a lot.
And anybody out there who is in the creative field, who is an artist, you can flip a switch on your brain too and turn, your business mind on. Sometimes we get stuck with the constraint of who we think we are, right?
Mhm.
And so when these doors got opened for you and you came up with Zoom Interiors and here you are, fine art degree students,
Mhm.
you were seeing yourself in different roles. And folks, it's, this whole business world is a creative endeavor. Numbers are creative. Accounting's definitely creative. So,
Yeah, it is.
right.
I always say that people are like, "Oh, do you paint anymore? Do you still sculpt?" And I always say, "No, my art is my business, right? That's really what it is."
Exactly. Well, as I said earlier, clearly you have a fine eye for design. I want to bring up some of these beautiful photos that you shared with me on some of the things that you're doing with Gemist. How did this idea come about for you?
It was funny because I was still at Hutch. I was running marketing there, and in my personal life, I was going through the process of talking with my partner about and getting engaged. And we've now been together for 12 years, so we were together for a while at that point, and we had an open conversation about it. And so he asked me like, "Well, what do I do about the ring?" And I said, yeah, I'm gonna be involved in that, dude. Okay, like don't just do that without me. And then you can have the proposal surprise part, like fine, but let me at least like be involved in the ring part because I'm gonna wear this thing for a long time, hopefully, right? And so I thought, okay, cool. I'm just gonna go online. I'll design a ring. I'm sure there's home try-on for rings. I'm thinking Warby Parker. I'm like, easy. It'll take me a couple weeks. And keep in mind, I'm incredibly busy, right? So I'm so naive going into this and really just think that Gemist exists, honestly. And I'm Googling like Warby Parker for jewelry. I'm Googling design online, like all these things. And the only platforms that were out there were these very sterile, kind of like Walmart for jewelry brands that had really outdated technology, really, in my opinion, kind of just the designs that I
Madeline,
thought
what year?
had.
What year is this?
This was like it was not that long ago. It was like 2017.
Like, doesn't that just blow your mind? I mean, it did blow my mind that in 2012 we didn't even have like a online interiors thing to play with.
I know technology is moving so quickly. And so, I was surprised to say the least. And being the perfect consumer for something like this, I was actually unable to pull the trigger and actually purchase a piece of jewelry online.
Right.
And that blew my mind, right? And I was like, this is so weird. What the hell am I going to do? So I started like texting and reaching out to my mom's girlfriends, like women. I'm like, okay, the wise people in my life are going to tell me what they did. And everyone, and this is in LA, right? So there is a jewelry district. It's in downtown. And so everyone was like, oh, you've got to go to my guy. Everyone had a guy, right? Oh my, I've got this like jeweler dude, whatever. And I'm like, okay. So I get a few numbers. The first one that calls me back, I'm like, I'll be there. I'll see you soon. I rush down there. It's like, downtown LA is the worst to anyone who knows about downtown
Right.
LA.
It sure is.
And overwhelming. And I kept thinking like, what the hell? Why am I doing this in person?
Right.
It's so stupid. I was like, you know what I mean? It's like hours of my life. I've already spent, a month or two trying to figure it out online. Now I'm going downtown. And it was just the sketchiest, like weirdest experience with this random guy in this tiny shoebox office trying to tell him what I wanted. And thank goodness I'm creative because I drew that ring to the millimeter for this guy. And I was like, exactly what I want. That's very rare. No one does that, by the way.
No.
And he was like, okay. And so he's like, you have to give me $1,000 deposit to like get moving on this. I'm like, okay. I gave him $1,000 in cash. And my husband Clinton and we were laughing our butts off. We were like, we'll never see this again, will we? Like, we might not ever see this ring. And this guy totally pulled it off. He was awesome.
What was the turnaround time for him?
He made it in like 2 or 3 weeks, which I was really shocked at. I was like, wow, oh my God. And then the price point was great. I mean, it was definitely more affordable than I had seen online. And it was this unique, beautiful ring. People stop me all the time and ask about it. I'm wearing it right now.
Okay, let me put this in full screen. That was going to be my next question. Oh, you got the oval.
Oh yeah, it's like this. It's a really fun. Sorry, my nails are not as beautiful as I'd hoped.
Yeah, no. I'm just gonna. Okay, everybody, hold on for one quick second. I did not have as great a luck with mine. Okay,
so beautiful. I love yours.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful topaz, right? Let me just can't get it in there. But anyway, getting the oval was was impossible with the people here in the Boston area. But so I have a deep appreciation. I didn't have the designer like you either, but that ring is so gorgeous.
Thank you.
But it was great that you went through that process and you said, okay, how can I make this user experience delicious for others, right?
Well, yeah, because when I got the ring, I was like, oh, we have a viable product. Okay, we just have to keep the process easy. I do that. I can do that that's what I do basically. It's my job, And so
I want to remind let me just take a moment to remind everybody. I've been so fascinated with this story. I haven't been doing my hosting skills as well. Be sure to pop any questions or comments into the threads, folks, so that we can add your insights to the conversation and we can learn together, because we're going to go into some good deep stuff here with Gemist and with Madeline. And I want to make sure everyone is included. And I want to say a big hello to Brent up in Ottawa. How you doing, Brent? Always so good to see you. And I'm so excited that you're going to be interviewing prior guest on the show, Justin Ayers from Equity MD on your show Monday. Hooray. And Heather, thank you for tuning in. I know you love jewelry. And yes, that mantra was a phenomenal stitch that on a pillow moment. And Asia, how are you? Talk about UX person. I mean, this is a woman who really likes to nail down that tech customer experience and make sure everybody's having a great time through her work in the world. Great to see you, Asia. Thanks for tuning in on this hot summer day here in Boston. All right. So you found the name was not trademarked. Like, again, I just have to go mind blown.
Well, it was a slow process for me to even start Gemist, because remember, I was still at Hutch.
Yeah.
So it was, I was thinking about it probably for over a year and a half before I even considered making a move. But what I started noticing was in all of my free time, which was very limited, I was researching, I was thinking, I was basically building a deck and asking questions. And I was
now you know how to do a deck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was doing that. I started to think, oh man, I think I'm ready to do this. And I just was so passionate and excited about the opportunity. I felt like the time was now. I was ready to do that. And then coincidentally, I was already taking some time off to get married. And so I thought, okay, well, why don't I kind of transition out of Hutch, go get married, take a break for a minute. I took about 3 months off, traveled a little bit. And then when I came back, I was like, I'm starting this company. I'm doing it.
Oh my gosh. So I have to ask because I know others are thinking this. How did 5 co-founders, and I'm sure that with Sean on board, everybody, the operating agreement and the attorneys that you had working to protect everybody, had your exit built into the agreement among the co-founders. How did you move on from that?
It was very amicable. My co-founders are still dear friends. All of our investors love them to death. There was no bad feelings or anything like that. It was just sort of like, listen, I think I've done as much as I can do to help grow this company.
Right.
And I have this idea that I can't stop thinking about, and I'm ready to move on. And I left all my equity on the table and really believed that they were going to build a wonderful business. And I just decided to sort of walk away from that chapter. And it was for me the right decision.
Yep. And I think that's so important for any founders who are tuning in and you hear this. Remember, you're not locked in, okay, to your business. All of mine came to me at like a stray cat at the door and yowled until I let them in. And, that's a similar thing that Madeline had happened. This idea, it had to happen. Our businesses almost have soul journeys, right? And so you can move from another business to a new business, that new idea that's pushing you. So if anybody's feeling pushed right now, Madeline has shown you how to do it, that it's okay.
Yeah, and it's
So,
scary, right?
yeah,
But you have to push through the fear. And always things happen, in my opinion, for the right reasons.
yeah,
And it was scary to leave my friends, my co-founders, this beautiful company we were building, to take a risk.
right.
But I was ready for it. I was also feeling really ready to do it on my own,
Yeah.
and to build it from the ground up again. I was really ready for that.
That's what I've sensed from you, from the whole, just talking to you. Like, you are the goddess of the business, and you were ready to move more fully into who you be as a founder, as a female
Yeah,
founder.
definitely. Very well said.
I love that. So you transitioned. How did the launch go? Like, what did you need to do first with Gemist? I mean, how did you bring on the tech team? How did you figure all these things out?
So, in the very beginning for me, one of the main things was, let's put this in front of consumers, right?
Yeah.
Simultaneously, let's ask people in my life if this even makes sense to them, right? And that's what I tell a lot of founders to do. I'm like, go pitch this to your friends and family, to other people, and make sure that this feels really like a disruptor, like something that they would utilize. And I was getting such fantastic feedback across the board about the concept and the idea, and that was driving more and more and more momentum for me.
Yeah.
And actually in the very beginning, conceptually bringing the company off the ground, it was mainly focused on engagement rings, because that was my pain point, right?
Yeah.
So I was very focused on that. I wanted to be niche. I didn't want to take on too much. And so that was sort of what we did. And it actually, in beta, we launched with a different name for the company. It wasn't called Gemist at first.
Okay.
And
Good to know.
we were getting it off the ground and sort of hustling it. I was raising our first round of funding in parallel with getting it into beta. And, the thing that I've learned 100% across all of my companies is you have to learn from the consumer, right? We do not know everything, right? And if I'm going to go over in a corner and build a business without asking the consumer, my target demographic, what I'm actually building and why I'm building it and what works for them, it's never going to work, right? So basically what we did was we got the platform, to like 85%. Okay. I was like, okay, this is good enough. People can use it. It looks good. We prototyped all the products, the physical jewelry, and the try-on experience and everything. And then we just hit the ground running in beta. And what we did was I was like, I don't want to spend any money. I want to do this in a really scrappy way. Let's go out and let's get actual consumer feedback. And that's literally what we did. And we did it mainly through events and pop-ups. It was probably a little bit of a year before COVID, so COVID hadn't happened yet. I was able to do that and kind of test things. And we had about 6 months of beta where we just learned. And the number one source of feedback was, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love the product. I love the platform. I love the brand. That was all good, but I am not ready for an engagement ring. I'm single. I'm married. Where's everything else? Like, where are the other rings? Where's the earrings, the necklaces, the bracelets? They wanted to do this for every category of jewelry. And I was like, whoa, okay, mind blown again, right? Had to sort of sit back with that information and say, hey, now we need to really evolve this. This is a bigger problem than we even thought we were solving, right? This is more about tackling the entire jewelry industry through bringing it online, through fantastic branding and technology, where consumers can actually create unique jewelry that is meaningful to them, right? So that's really the core concept with Gemist, is design your own and then try it on before you buy it, right? And so that's what we ended up doing. And Gemist came along because the company name initially had the word ring in it, so it was more focused on rings,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, well, we can't have a company with the word ring in it. Oh no, like we're gonna now have like all the jewelry. And so we had this whole, company brainstorm. We have to change the name. I said, we're changing the name in 2 weeks. That's the time they're giving us 2 weeks. That's it. And we're changing it. And I actually went on a hike and kind of like had to sit and meditate with what I was going to do here, because a lot of people didn't want me to change the name. I had investors that were against it, but I really knew it was necessary. And so Gemist is two things. So first, you're a gem, right? Is something we say a lot. So gem, a person who is uniquely their own, somebody who really owns who they are, who's beautiful in the world and that people admire, right? So that was the first piece of this. And then IST literally means the follower of a movement. Scientist, artist, feminist, right? And so that's what we really felt we were doing. We were creating and are creating a movement in jewelry design for the gems in the world, for the gems in our lives, right? And so that was really the source of the name Gemist. And we loved it. We love it. I mean, I hope you guys love it too, but it just felt perfectly right.
Again, could not believe it was available. That's how much I love that name, and branding's my jam. So the fact is that Gemist allows you to meet so many needs and expand off your original idea. And you proved your value prop. So let's just go, yay. That's the first thing that you did a phenomenal job with Gemist, but you learned such important feedback, which is, well, but I need an earring, or I need a bracelet. I need a necklace. I need.
Exactly. So it was a lot of work to get it off the ground. And of course, we launched only a few months before COVID from a digital perspective, into the world, which was crazy.
It's crazy, but I think it's ideal timing, because now you've got an audience like they can't go to the jewelry store.
Exactly.
And
it all did work out.
Yeah, and they've been meaning to do this. And what would you say, like, as you've been proving your value proposition, what has really differentiated you from anybody else doing this? Because, investors, they hate to hear, oh, we're the only one doing this. Was there anybody coming in that was close to you? And how did you show that you had a good moat, a good unfair advantage?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of things, but it really came down to the technology that we were building and how we were innovating there. And nobody was pairing the idea of design your own, right? So this concept of, I want something unique that nobody else has, paired with the concept of taking the risk away, right? Of buying a high AOV product online, right? Oh no, I don't want to do this. What if it's not right? What is it going to look like? Right. So really allowing consumers to do home try on, I think, was kind of that other tipping point that really set us apart in a unique way. Very operations heavy on the back end, but very, very unique in terms of a value add to the consumer. And also in general, just kind of saying, hey, let's bring the jewelry industry online, right? You're looking at an industry that's huge. It's 300 billion globally. Only 10% of that entire industry is online. That was pre-COVID. Now it's almost doubled. We're getting closer to about 20% online. And so the time is now, really to start disrupting it and to start getting consumers more comfortable with buying online, especially in this category. And what we found is that home try on mixed with this idea of uniqueness, of design, of customization is sort of that secret sauce that's getting consumers super excited.
Yeah. And of course, as an investor, you're a moat. I mean, you are ideally qualified and uniquely qualified to be leading the charge here from your lived experience, but also from your impeccable eye for design and understanding, and your ability to understand what the consumer is wanting and putting it into a way that makes them so happy. Yes, Mia, that oval ring, OMG. So gorgeous. And Asia, yay. I love the customization options. The rose gold really caught my eye. Phenomenal. But now, a lot of tech companies, they get the technology up and that's it. You have to do fulfillment. Yes. You have to manage inventory. You have to have people on, vendors who you have vetted. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't know anything about jewelry or the industry before starting Gemist. And I think that's a testament to the fact that I'm just an incredibly curious human. But having to crack that open, like, alone was so bizarre, like learning the industry and how jewelry is actually made and who the manufacturers are. And of course, I brought people on who are so much smarter and more talented than I am to help me do that. And I think that's the other thing that I tell a lot of people. I'm like, you are really the leader, but your team are really going to execute, with you. And so I've been so fortunate to just have the most unbelievable team of people who believe in Gemist as much as I do, who are experts in their fields, right? And who really understand how to execute their department really, really well. And so I feel like I'm a sponge. I'm learning, right, along with them. And it's just been a really, really interesting, roller coaster of a ride to learn about.
Yeah, but you also had to find folks who were going to provide you with gems and stones that were ethically sourced, right? You had to find the folks who were going to actually put it together and send it out. How did that work out? Because that can be a real challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I brought on people who understood the industry, to be honest with you.
They helped you find the folks who were going to fulfill the orders?
Yep, we found people together. We vetted them. We, we tested out different manufacturers. We tested out different stone suppliers, and then we really found the ones that we loved the most that worked with us. And and we still work with them today, actually. So it's definitely you always have that learning curve, but you end up finding the right people. And like I said, a lot of things that we've built, that we've done, the first answer I've had a ton of the time, especially from the jewelry industry within manufacturers, is no, that can't be done. Or no, everyone loves to say no to me. And I'm like, what? No, I think it can, right? And so you have to sort of push through and power through. And it comes back to inspiring, right? Maintaining the vision and just knowing that you can do it and putting one foot in front of the other. And then a lot of times you get slapped in the face and you get pushed back 5 steps, and then you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, keep going. And that's the name of the game of any of this.
That's right.
Just building the company is one thing. Fundraising is one thing. Hiring the right team is one thing. I mean, there are so many different pieces of this job that are tough.
Yes. And you have a lot of those skill sets inside you. And I just want to say to folks tuning in, if you are great at the implementation, operations, definitely bring on somebody who can get out there and share that vision, because that has to always be part of the leadership of the company, is that you have someone who is out there with investors, with customers, with the team, everybody, just sharing that vision, because you can get really caught up in the day-to-day tasks, right, Madeline? That can all of a sudden you feel swamped by them all, and you go, oh, wait, I got to keep everybody on the vision and inspired. I think that kind of comes easily to you, though. Yes.
Yeah. I've learned, it's a learned thing, definitely. Right. And managing expectations and you deal with a lot of different personalities, right. As a founder and as a CEO. And so I have to put different caps on, right. And sort of, think differently based off of whatever I'm doing at the time. Right. It's so interesting, because the other thing that a lot of CEOs and founders that are friends of mine that we've talked about, which is such a weird thing, is when you are fundraising, it takes up about 80% of your time. So you have to shift from being this unbelievably gung-ho, passionate founder building a company and being so excited about learning from your consumers. And I get on calls with our consumers all the time. I mean, I am in it. And then you have to pivot, and you have to say, oh no, I have to now go sell this company to a ton of people who are going to say no to me, to a ton of people who are going to judge me, right? And I have to convince them that I'm not only worthy of their investment, but that this is a huge idea and is going to disrupt XYZ industry, right? And so it's such an incredible thing that CEOs and that founders have to do. I have so much admiration for my other founders that do this job too, because it is grueling. And
let's give Madeline a huge round of applause, everybody, wherever you are listening, whenever you are listening and watching. And really, congratulations. And thank you for sharing that to all founders, because that shift from building the business to, oh yeah, now I got to go get rejected big time on the money scene and get asked a lot of questions that you're going.
Crazy. It's totally crazy. And, and you just you become, what happens to me at least is I know my business so well. I know my pitch so well. I black out. I basically become this robot, but it's this energy that has to come out of you that is so intense. And so, you'll go through, sometimes I'll have 10 pitch meetings in a day or more.
Right.
And just like, I'm like a shell at the end of the day because I've given every ounce of energy I could possibly give,
Oh,
I'm
laughing because I know what it's like. I'm right there with you, fist bumping you on that.
Yeah.
That is so hard, but it's so important. I have a few questions around that. Certainly. How has the fundraising gone for Gemist? Where are you at? Are you in seed? Are you into A? Where are you feeling good where you're at and not needing any funding? What's going on?
So we raised a pre-seed round about 2 years ago, and that was great. We got a lot of venture capital funds in Los Angeles that I dearly, dearly love all of my investors. I'm really lucky for that. Some angel investors, some family funds, and then the last investor actually that came into that round was De Beers Diamonds. And that was a huge, huge thing. I mean, again, still pinching myself about that one. But like I said, when you're doing it and when you're putting yourself out there and you're crying in the bathroom, which I did a lot in our offices because it was always like, you'd be like, okay, I think these people are going to say yes. I really like them. Like, I'm feeling good about it. And you're like pepping yourself up. And then you get that email and they're like, no. And that happens, by the way, hundreds of times. So get ready, buckle up, right? And it's really hard because your skin gets thicker slowly, right? It's like you can't just all of a sudden be like, I'm Superwoman and never going to feel the feelings. And so you go through this process and so emotional and raw, right? And then you have to get up, smile, and do it again. And that's crazy. So anyway, I was in that mode of pitching. And I was in diligence with another fund based in the UK that, again, I really loved. And again, they did not invest. But during diligence, and by the way, you go through diligence, PS, with a ton of funds, and they put you through hell and back just to say no. That's okay. This happens to everybody, right? But one of the things that did happen that was, I think, very meant to be was they said, all right, well, we've got 2 people in the diamond industry that we want you to talk to. We want them to vet you and vet the company and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, sure, fine. So the first guy I get on the phone with, I don't remember his name, but he was this big guy in the diamond industry. And, he was also British. And, it's my first call and I'm so nervous. And he just hated everything about me. He hated Gemist. It was like the worst call in the world. And I'm like, it was like a 10-minute call that went terribly. And I was just shocked by the whole thing. And then the next day I have this call with De Beers. With Stephen Lucier, who is basically the guy who runs De Beers. I mean, this is the guy. And I'm like, if the other, guy in the jewelry industry, I'm thinking all these similarities, there's no way De Beers is going to get this, right? If this other guy didn't get it, because you have to get it, right? You have to be able to have vision to understand.
Absolutely.
And you have to go on the vision journey with me. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So I'm like shaking before this call with Steven, which I've told him this before. And I'm like, he's going to hate me. I'm so scared.
Well, and were you thinking, why bother after that last call too?
Exactly. I'm like, this is not going to go well. I really had to pep myself up and be like, Madeline, just do it. Just do it. And so I get on the call and I'm so nervous. And he won on the vision, man. I mean, he understood everything I was saying. He was like, I can't believe this hasn't happened yet. I've been thinking that this should happen. I think you're the one to do it. I love it. What do you need? How can I help you? By the way, at the end of the call, yeah, exactly. He goes, oh yeah, by the way, De Beers is starting a venture fund.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I have chills, like what is going on? And he's like, I'll connect you. I think you're a perfect fit. Right. And so I'm like, okay, wow, holy shit, like this could happen.
You didn't expect that to happen?
No,
at all. You go into the call going,
every day is a new day. Anything can happen. That's the cool thing about this job, right? It's crazy. And so anyway, the process of getting them on board was really interesting. It took a while. And then finally, once they got used to me and comfortable with me, they asked me to come to London. Again, pre-COVID. And I was like, okay, like I'm going to go to London and I have to stand up in front of a room of all of their C-suite executives and their top stakeholders. Right. And I have to pitch Gemist.
Right. And they know what they're talking about. Okay. They are so entrenched. You're just like, oh, I just learned about gems. Like
exactly. I know like basically nothing about jewelry. I'm like still learning, we're a baby company. We have interesting and very fantastic traction, but well, who's to say, I'm going to go and do this? It was
Oh,
crazy. It was so crazy. And I get there and I'm like, the Uber was late. So I was almost late to this meeting. And I get there and I'm like sweating and I'm so nervous. And they were like so on time because they're British.
wow.
They're very prompt,
And
very
they're the
prompt.
jewelry business.
And they're just like boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, oh my God, I just need like 1 minute. Is there any way that I could get a glass of water? And I went into the bathroom, and I didn't have to pee or anything. I just like go into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I was like, you can do this. I was like, took that deep breath. I just like had some water and I was like, you can do this.
You can do this. It's showtime.
Go kick ass. And
Anybody who's afraid can sit in the back. I'm
Mhm.
showing up to deliver.
I was like, I'm doing this. And I walked in there, head held high. And you have your presentation that you've basically memorized, right? You have the whole thing on the slide, projector thing. I mean, it's scary. And I just felt like it was an out of body experience for me. It was really powerful. It felt like I was watching myself like a fly on the wall type of thing. Like I didn't screw up. I didn't stutter. I was like confident and clear. And I was like, you know what? Even if they don't invest, like, hell yeah, that I did that.
Right.
Right? I was like, good job. Which I think is another thing that we always forget is to feel like this is hard and scary. And let's just like take a minute to pat ourselves on the back and to like say, good job for you for showing the hell up today and doing that thing. Right?
Oh my gosh. Don't you all just feel like you just went on this journey with Madeline? I mean, I just feel like we all won from your presentation there. We have been there and we've been there when we flopped and flubbed and done that. But boy, that timing was beautiful. And if you set the expectation, folks, that you will uncover a gem of an investor, that it's just about saying yes. It's just about being willing to screw up or be supremely great, like Madeline was that day. I mean, we've all had that too, where we were just like, the timing was great. The words came out beautifully, the eye contact, the presentation. I just say how proud I am of you. Congratulations. And you were in another country. It wasn't like you went downtown LA. And then coupled, you were with people who had so much more on the ball in your industry than you did. You were like a neophyte. But here's what's great about De Beers. They knew that they couldn't create that level of innovation in-house, that they needed to bring that level of innovation in. So founders, remember that. You never know what's on their agenda, but these big companies, when they get that big, they just don't innovate the way they should. And they had someone on board who knew that and went out and found the gem of Madeline Fraser and her business, Gemist. Yes, Asia, I know. De Beers is huge. And she's got like a bajillion claps right here for you. That's so, so great. What a story. I did want to ask a few more questions, like how did you figure out pricing? Can we take a minute for that, or do you have to be off and running? Okay. Because this price point is really big in purchasing, and pricing is what so many companies and founders struggle with. What did you learn in your customer journey story that helped you nail down the right price point for this online purchase?
Yeah, well, I think the beauty of Gemist is really the core of what we're doing, which comes down to design, right? And to creating what works for you. And that also means budget, by the way.
Yeah.
So we allow consumers to design within really any material that they want, which I think is so interesting and different. So you can build, a pair of custom earrings or rings or whatever you want within fine and fashion materials. So you can do it in solid gold. You can do it in diamonds and gemstones. You can do it in Swarovski crystals, right? You can do it in yellow gold plating. You can do it in silver. So everything is high quality. It's handcrafted just for you. We don't really have a lot of inventory. Nothing is just sitting on a shelf collecting dust. We are very much the anti-fast fashion. We're doing things right. We're doing things, in a really meaningful way that we feel is kind of redefining the narrative of what it means to purchase jewelry online. Right. And from there, we've been able to allow consumers to build flexibly, right, what works for them, because a lot of people are just, I need fine jewelry. That's what I want. Or some people, we have this whole, with engagement rings, we have this whole thing where women were actually buying the try-on rings because it's the fashion version. And they were wearing them for things like travel, the beach, and working out. And then they would have their real one and they would keep it at home when they'd go out to their vacation or whatever. And then we had people who were like, hey, why can't I design in those materials for other pieces of jewelry? I feel like that would be awesome. And that's a better price point for me. So we just listened.
And how did you come along, with the price point through your customer discovery, where you saw that, okay, the people that we want to go after, that are our target audience, have a an appetite for this price. And I'm honing in on this just to pick your brain a little here on how you did that.
It was really just, I think, listening and
Yeah.
asking those questions, right?
Okay.
So we've done an unbelievable amount of user testing with
Yeah.
with our platform, and we still do that. We just actually did like 3 full weeks of it this
Great.
last month, and so it's never ending. We are
Yeah.
always learning. We are always launching new product. We are constantly trying to basically say, hey, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What could we do better? And that's how we're building the company. I mean, and I think
Excellent.
that that's a beautiful thing, and that's how companies should be built.
Right. So, folks, just to understand with pricing and understand if there's any elasticity there, it's through your customers that are going to help you with that. And speaking of new products, oh my gosh,
Oh,
you're doing
yay.
bracelets, and take a look at this necklace lineup. Come on. And those earrings. Come on. Talk a bit about this, Madeline.
Yeah, so this is our golden hour collection that just actually launched yesterday. And this was really a source of asking our consumers what they were looking for. A lot of our products have gemstones, which people love too, but there was a need for consumers who really wanted very simple but chunky and delicate, also like this kind of fun mix that you can really layer of metal material options. And so that's what we did. A lot of these products are mainly just metal based. So you can do gold, silver, gold plating, things like that. And it's a really fun way to create a beautiful look for day and also night.
I love layering more than anything with jewelry.
Yeah,
and people
me
have been getting to just like a simple little thing. I'm like, no, it needs a little something thicker, and then
Yeah,
something.
why not? You need to stack it up.
Yeah, stack it up. Those listening to the podcast, you have to go visit gemist.co and go check out all their goodies, because here we're, those of us watching live are just drooling over this incredible jewelry. But if you're listening to the podcast, be sure to go and hop on the website. One final question, because I don't want to keep you from doing so many other important things, but how you've shared so many gems with us throughout everything that you've done in this storytelling, which is wonderful. But at the end of the day, today, at this stage of your founder journey, how has entrepreneurship served you both personally and professionally?
Man, I think that it's taught me that I can do anything. I think that's number one, right? It's given me an incredible confidence in myself and in my team. And although I don't know what the end result is going to be, I know it's going to be something special. I really do believe that. And I think that that's one of the beautiful things about being a founder, although it is probably harder than it is easy, right? And you have probably more bad days than good days. The good days really weigh out the bad ones. And so it's also kind of given me this lovely optimism, right? Glass is half full. When one door closes, another opens. And I think personally, in my personal life, I think it's been nice for me to also remember to enjoy the journey, right? That my job doesn't actually really define me as a person, right? It's a piece of me. It's a part of me. But what's also incredibly important is to be happy and to share love, right? And to live life to the fullest. And so I'm very cognizant of that as well in my life.
Well, I have to tell you, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the Startup Life Live show and sharing your extraordinary startup stories and insights. I am so jazzed, especially that De Beers pitch. I will never forget that. Oh my gosh. And I know everybody tuning in on the replay or via the podcast is going to love meeting you, learning from you, and definitely purchasing from you. Okay. Because we love to design, and the fact that you're giving us this experience and that you found the technology and you have found the right elements from the gems to the materials that you're using. It's a beautiful combination. I know you're just going to grow more and more from that. Thank you, Madeline, for joining us
Thank
today.
you so much. That was so much fun. I really appreciate you for putting this together and for sharing these types of stories, because we need to tell more women that they can do this too.
You can out there. That's so wonderful. I'm going to pop you in the green room and wrap up for a second here and get back to you then for if you can stick around for a virtual hug, that would be so fabulous. Okay. Tell me you didn't learn like so much and are inspired to go back out there. Those bad days, they are followed by good ones. Those bad moments that leave you shaking in your boots and questioning your intelligence as to why you're doing this will be overcome by the next call, is provided you keep saying yes and provide that you keep showing up and being willing to share your journey. Oh my gosh, we learned so much from Madeline. That was delicious. All right, let me share with you who's on the show next, because we love these startup stories. And speaking of a woman who wanted to create balance, this is an attorney who said, I'm not going to support this insane culture anymore. I'm going to go and create a law firm that has humanity in it. So Hannah Genton, founding partner of CGL LLC law firm, is joining us, and we're chatting about how you can build a thriving, profitable law practice without sacrificing your personal life. And we're going to learn a lot from her and her stories, because sometimes it's really hard to keep that balance going. But can you imagine in a law firm? They're known for those 80-hour weeks. But again, join the Startup Life meetup group. And that's bit.ly/Startup Life live in all caps, or scan that QR code to receive an alert whenever we have a new show. And of course, we've got the big 100th episode coming up on Friday, August 20th with Jenny Lefcourt. Woo-woo! Hope you can join me for that. In the meantime, I just want you to remember, I'm going to pull this up. Here we go. Yes, promise me you'll remember that you're braver than you believe. Madeline showed us that. And stronger than you seem. And as we say here in Boston, wicked smarter than you think, for sure. We definitely learned that from Madeline today. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I'll see you next time. Mwah! Cheers and have a delicious day.